The 2024 producer letter for Conan Exiles just dropped, and it's announced a massive change for how the game is updated in the near future, and it's a change that I think a lot of you might actually be pretty happy to hear. Let's get into it. This letter is from Rodney Harper, the project director of Conan Exiles. The first part of the letter is pretty usual stuff, just highlighting the achievements of the year. The interesting part we're looking for is in the latter half, titled The Path Ahead, which details the future of Conan Exiles. This is a fairly lengthy segment, so I'll do my best to condense it down. Basically, Conan Exiles was never intended to be a game as a service, more of a one-and-done project. Instead, it became a huge success, and the team continued to build on it. However, over time, keeping up with release plans, especially after Update 3.0, became increasingly difficult, and development is a complex balance of new features alongside needing to address older issues caused by expanding a game that was never really built for expansion. The team has accumulated quite a lot of technical debt because of how Conan was built and expanded. That building debt was reflected in player feedback, which shifted from wanting new features to addressing stability and bugs. This wasn't surprising, the issues shouldn't have happened, and though the team tried to address them, bringing new features whilst tackling the accumulated issues proved unviable. Therefore, the decision has been taken to hold off on developing new content whilst the team focuses on improving the game from a technical and quality of life standpoint. At this point, the team believes they need to focus more on making the game better, not just bigger. Our goal for the next update is to start focusing on bugs and stability. This update will come in spring and will give you more insight of what to expect as release comes closer. This update will be a key step in addressing the game's core issues and laying a stable foundation for the future. As a part of this, we want to hear your opinions. We have a list of things we want to tackle for the next update, and your feedback is always valuable to have. We're making these changes for the long-term health of the game and its community in mind, and thank you all for the understanding, patience and trust as we move toward making a more stable and rewarding experience for Conan Exiles. So, pretty big news. Basically, no more big content drops for a while. To be fair, I would still expect smaller quality of life things as per the letter. I wouldn't be surprised if we get stuff like more controls for living settlements, or features on a similar level to Down But Not Out, where it's not a huge piece of new content but it is a nice quality of life addition. Furthermore, to be frank, I'd still expect there to be new bazaar items. Cash flow is always needed, and I can't imagine the art department would have a ton of work to do on fixing bugs. It is what it is in that regard. As for the content pause itself, it probably could have been avoided a while ago, but I think it's almost to the point of necessity now. I've seen people call for it on the forums for a while, and after the Age of Heroes launch, I think it was even more of a possibility. They may have slowed down updates at the end of the Age of War, but that backlog of snowballing problems doesn't just evaporate. I thought we'd start to see the benefits in Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 of the Age of Heroes, but clearly the accumulation is just too much to handle with the massive tech debt they've built. Realistically speaking, this is probably the best choice for the game. Usually I would say no new content is a bad thing, but there are far bigger fish to fry currently. You can add as much content as you want, but after the mess that was the Age of Heroes, where people had thralls disappearing, servers crashing, still falling through foundations, and some were, and still are, completely unable to play their old saves, it's kinda time to stop worrying about attracting people with new content. You can't build a player base if your existing players can't even play the game properly, and I think this letter is a direct address at that issue. Honestly, I really applaud this letter. I wish it hadn't come to this, but we're here and something has to be done. The game can't continue with update after update being horribly broken and barely fixed in time for the next one. The one thing we do need though is communication, serious communication. The more cynical will immediately jump to accusations of maintenance mode or jumping ship to June. I don't think that's happening, but Funcom can't be as silent as they are normally. If there's no new content to spoil, now is the perfect time to tell us about what's being worked on in the office. Progress reports, things the team is focusing on, gathering survey feedbacks on bugs. Now is the ample time to start to rebuild the communications between the devs and the community. Initial impressions of this letter seem very positive, and Funcom has probably won a little bit of initial goodwill with this, so I hope they capitalise on it. To summarise everything, no new big content drops for the foreseeable future. The team are focusing in on bugs and stability, working to make Conan better, not bigger. Content will return as normal down the road, but for now the debt of problems is so big that it needs to be the sole focus. Andy mentioned on the forums that a hotfix is coming at some point this month, and I think the spring update should come around April if they're sticking to the usual schedule. Hopefully when those updates do drop, the latter one especially, we'll see the devs demolishing some of those irritating and long-standing problems. Anyway, that will wrap us up for today. Some big news out of the Conan Exiles team. Not exactly the news we all wanted to hear, but I think the news that we need. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. If you want to see videos early and support the channel directly, consider joining us over on Patreon, link in the description and pinned comment. Take care, and I'll see you soon.